Welcome to the Jamie Renda podcast, sponsored by Brixton's Big Potato and the Trumptator. Our guest today is Gage Froerer, our county commissioner from Weber County. Thank you for coming on, Gage.
Thanks for inviting me.
Awesome. Now, I've been following Gage for a long time. Gage ran for Senate. What year was that in? State House Senate.
About 2000 something, yeah. 2002.
Yeah. And against Alan Christensen that time. And then Alan won that seat, and then Gage went on to run in the House. And you served in the House how many years?
12 years.
12 years.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay, so that would have been 14 years ago you ran for Senate then.
14 years ago, yeah, exactly.
Okay.
It would have been.
Man, we're going through a lot right now. So it's hard to know where to start, but as county commissioner, do you feel it's your role to provide information to us as citizens and community members, or to be more invasive on telling us what to do during this coronavirus? I mean, I'm a big believer in civil liberties, Gage.
Right.
So.
Oh, I know that.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I've taken a stance, it's public information, that the role of government is not to tell people what to do and when to do it, is to provide information and then let those citizens make the decisions. And that would be true for business owners as well as members of the public. I'm again told a number of people that have called me about shutting things down. My comment is, well, if you don't feel comfortable going out to a restaurant, then don't go. I've told the same thing to a business owner. If business owner, you don't feel comfortable letting the members of the public in, then that's your business. But I don't think it's the role of government, like we've seen happen with the state government, to basically tell people they have to close their doors.
Absolutely. I appreciate your leadership on that, because one of the, and this may seem like a small thing, but it's really been a big thing that I really appreciate Mayor Caldwell on, is that he left our parks open.
Mm-hmm.
He left our trails open, and I think it's been a great blessing to the members of our community to be able to get out and take a bike ride, take their kids to the park, and we haven't seen any spike of coronavirus because of it. And I think people have used great judgment and tried to social distance. I know when I'm out on a walk on the trails, everybody takes that little deviation away and hold your breath in as you're passing by someone, but it's important to be able to get out and have fresh air and be out in the community. So I definitely appreciate our city on doing that for us, and I appreciate the county not being overly invasive up on our freedoms.
No, the county, I mean, we've taken the position right from day one that our parks were open, Memorial Park, North Fork Park. As soon as the weather turned, obviously before people started using them, they made the determination, but once the weather warmed up, they were open. We opened our libraries after about a 10-day, 14-day period of time when a lot of people were against that. But we actually had over 10,000 people that utilized those libraries, our 4 libraries, over that period of, recent, probably 30 days since we opened.
So just to put a plug in for our libraries, because I think we have some really good public libraries here. So parents are home with their kids, and to have access to the wonderful videos and other materials that our public libraries offer is an incredible blessing for these families. So,
well, we have a lot of people in this county, elderly, young, across the board, people that don't have access to internet at home, video material, reading material, current, and the only access they have is through our public libraries. So to shut them out of those public libraries, I felt was very unfortunate, unfair to our taxpayers. And again, we represent the taxpayers. That's, you know as well as I do that our boss is the person that pays their tax, sales tax, property tax in this county, and it's our job to protect that.
Yeah. And as these sales tax don't come in, then those programs are jeopardized.
That's right.
So shutting down small businesses and other businesses can really impact future programs. So anyway,
compounds the problem.
Yeah, it really does.
Yeah.
And it compounds those. That there's many things I could say on this issue because I feel quite passionate about it. I don't feel it's the role of the government to step in lightly at all and take away my civil liberties. And I feel like most people were good sports and said, yeah, if we need to flatten the curve for 2 weeks to give our hospitals a chance to prepare, we'll do that.
Mm-hmm.
But in the back of my mind, I knew that's not where it was going to stop. So
no.
Anyway, it's time to open our economies.
And we've opened a good share of Weber County. Again, there's those businesses that still have to live by certain measures, but they can still be open. Now, have they been hurt? Absolutely.
But, at least it's the market-driven.
It is.
I have a mother that I think I told you that is in assisted living, and they're basically prisoners there.
Yeah.
They can't leave their rooms. They have the
Yeah.
meals. They can't even engage with each other at mealtime. They haven't had their hair done in 3 months,
Oh, wow.
and this is really hard on them.
Wow.
It's tough on them. So
Yeah.
anyway, coronavirus isn't going away. It's probably going to take the lives of many of our community members at some point. So I think people have to make wise choices, but we can't keep people prisoners. We can't force businesses to stay shut or they won't ever open again.
Right.
And
Absolutely. We're on the same page there.
anyway, on to kind of a little bit more positive note.
Okay.
I think is that we have some great candidates running right now.
We do.
And one of those candidates, it's my understanding that you're supporting for governor. Tell us about who you're supporting and why.
Well, I actually know all 4 of the candidates fairly well, some more than others. And it's been a tough decision because I've been approached by basically all 4 and asked for, they've asked for my endorsement. And after reviewing it, I basically made an early decision to endorse Greg Hughes. The reason for that, and again, the other 3 contenders are all great people. They all would add something to the position. But I worked with Greg from day one in the House, again, 12 years ago, which actually coming up 14 years ago. This next year is when I started in the House.
Well, I'm going to just cut you off for a second because when you give your passionate plea for Greg, I want you to be looking into that camera
okay.
because I want the audience to understand why it's important for
Sure.
you. And I'm not saying I'm endorsing Greg at this point, but I'd like the audience to know why you're endorsing Greg. So.
Well, I think it's important for members of the public to understand that when you work with somebody in the legislative process, you come to understand who's effective and who maybe not quite as effective. And everybody down at the legislature in my 12 years was giving it their best. I think they all went into the legislature with the intent to help people, to do good for members of the public. But certain people stand out in those legislative sessions, in the committee meetings, the late night sessions. And it comes down to being able to basically represent the public in a manner that's effective, that brings what I call, brings it home to the people. And that is passing legislation that makes common sense and that doesn't harm the public good in the way of overregulation. That's what I base my principles on in the 12 years of the legislature. Basically, cause no harm, do not overregulate, and the legislation you run better do something to improve people's life. I've seen Greg from being members of the committee. I sat on with him to House leadership, to Speaker of the House. And he had the ability to make those tough decisions. And really that's what it's about, is electing somebody that has the willpower to make tough decisions on the basis of what's best for the public, not necessarily what's best to be reelected. I did that. I made all my decisions not on my ability to get reelected, but was this the right thing to do? And that's the way I see Greg as governor. He'll make the tough decisions. He's not afraid to go against some public opinion if he feels it's in the right interest and the best interest of the public. So that's why I'm supporting Greg.
Awesome. So we had Greg on the program, and we had the Trumptator that kind of sat between us. And I had never met Greg prior to him coming on. I'd heard his commercials and listened to him on some debates over the years. But what I liked about Greg is he's very genuine. I was just really kind of taken back on how absolutely genuine that Greg was. And so I haven't decided who I'm throwing my support behind, other than I am not throwing my support behind Lieutenant Governor Cox. So I'm a never Coxer. So,
I got it.
But anyway, Greg even came over and ate at the restaurant after, and spent 2 hours just talking to the group of us, and just very genuine, nice guy, very approachable. And so
I think that's one of his strong suits. Yeah.
So I really liked him. I thought he was fantastic. Now, as you know, Gage, I'm a big supporter of President Trump. And I created, and you kind of watched this process over the last few years, my Trumptator character. And one of the reasons I did that is because, like what you see in Greg, I kind of have seen in President Trump. I think Greg is a pragmatic leader.
Yep.
I think you were a very pragmatic leader. There's a lot of things that you didn't support that I would have liked you to support, but you approach things from a very pragmatic position as a problem solver.
Right.
How do we fix it?
Yep.
And so I appreciated that in your leadership, and I appreciate that with President Trump. So I created my Trump tater. And just again, so if this is the first video that our audience is watching, people were calling Trump a Trump tater, like a dictator, and I thought, I can't have that because I love Trump and I love potatoes. And so I created this lovely character. I think this is cute as anything.
It's pretty cute. I see.
Anyway, but I created him, but a lot of it's the vernacular, because a Trump means to outclass, outshine, outperform, to defeat someone or something, and a dependable and exemplary person. So a Trump tater is somebody who has the attributes of that of Trump, and our president definitely does. And Greg was a big supporter of President Trump from the very beginning, so I admire that in Greg. I think right now I have, as you know too, I have a big 24-foot banner across my restaurant.
I've seen it.
That says, "We love and support our president. He's our top tater." I get a lot of heat and a lot of hate for that. But right now is the time that we have to be courageous. And we have to stand up for the things that we believe in. And you know also that I've been very passionate about prison reform and reaching out to Black Americans and solving some of the problems that I have seen in the injustices in our prison system and judicial system for some time. So this is nothing. Well, you can, if you don't mind sharing with our audience that you're aware of my efforts in that over the years. And
oh yeah, I mean, Jamie and I gone back a number of years, like we said, so this would be 14 plus 2, so 16 years ago when I first ran for state senate. She was very active. She was a state delegate at that point in time. We had quite a few conversations. And again, I told her, look, I probably can't support you in everything, but I can support you on the things, the principles that we agree on. Things like private property rights, low taxation. But let's get to the solution, which is really what Jamie wanted as well. And I think that's what you have to do as a leader. The minute that you promise everything to everybody is you basically become non-effective to anybody. So I think it's important, again, to make sure that the battles you pick, the problems you solve, and that Jamie's had some very good ones, are solvable. But I've always enjoyed Jamie's passion. One thing that I see in her is the ability to bring people together and to really make sure that people understand the situation, like jail reform, and that it's a lot of members of the public just aren't involved with enough to truly understand.
So one of the things I'd like to invite you to, I don't know if you saw the video that podcast I did with Malik Dio.
I haven't, no.
Well, I'd encourage you to watch that because it was really good. And that's where the conversation, that's how we solve problems, is talking to each other.
Right.
But he encouraged me at the end, he mentioned my sign, and that it makes some people feel uncomfortable. And I think even with the solution he suggested, some people are probably still going to feel uncomfortable. But my intent is not to make anyone feel uncomfortable. My intent is to show my support for the leader of our country and our president. And but he encouraged me to put a Black Lives Matter sign up beside it. And I said, well, I will put, because I think George Floyd and his family have been kind of lost in this, that I would put a Justice for George, or Always Remember George. And we had an officer pass away or get killed recently here in Ogden. And I talked to Malik on this too. So on one side, I'm going to have my Always Remember George Floyd to remind people that we need judicial reform. And on the other side, I'm going to have Always Remember Sergeant Liddell, and that we support our police. One does not have to come in place of the other.
Yeah. No,
that you can support your officers and your law enforcement, and you can let them know how valued part of the community they are, and still support judicial reform and prison reform, and to make that a system that is going to be more reformative, to help people transform their lives and to become better contributing members of society and for their family. And one does not come in place of the other.
No.
It's something that we need to work on harmoniously together and bring everybody to the table and find a way that we can have a safe community and have a compassionate community and help reform the lives of people who've had things happen to them that have caused them to go the wrong direction, and make sure that we give them an opportunity to transform their lives.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's
So-
bringing people together, and it's what you see is factions on both sides that are, opposite ends that don't talk, but it's a very small minority on this side, and it's a very small majority on this side that.
Well, I'd like you to be part of that conversation with us
Yeah.
on bringing people together.
So it needs to happen because we're at the point right now where people aren't talking, and protest is obviously peaceful protest is something I believe in, but violent protest, destruction of property, is that we've seen in Salt Lake, not in Ogden, by the way, is something that's never productive. The only thing that's productive is obviously have your voice heard, but do that in a peaceful manner, logical manner, bring the decision makers to the table, and you'd be surprised at the results that could happen.
Awesome. Well, thank you for coming
Thank
on,
you.
Gage. I guess we can shake hands.
We can shake
right now.
hands,
I believe in
yeah.
that. All
Yeah.
right. Thank you again.
Thanks for inviting me.